Not a matter of if, but when crisis will rock your world. I'm Roshini Rajkumar, crisis strategist, licensed attorney, and host of The Crisis Files. In each case file, we explore a real-world crisis and meet inspiring people who press for better. The story of today's guest will both shock and inspire you. Her business and fitness journey never skipped a beat while she fought for two innocent lives. Natalie Bushaw is Vice President of Public Relations and Corporate Communications for Lifetime. She guides messaging and optics for the Athletic Country Club brand as she manages her own wellness and attitude toward aging. Natalie is here for the case file I call Defying Gravity. Natalie, I know crisis filers would want to know about the unexpected news you received about midway through your pregnancy with twin boys.
Yeah, it was a really interesting time. My husband and I were not trying to have a baby, and we found out we were having a baby in December of 2002. In 2003, it would have been our 19-week appointment. We found out we were having twins. So here we were going along for 3 months. We thought we were just having a baby. And then midway through, we found out we were having twins. 2 weeks later, on what was April Fool's Day, we found out that our two little, very identical boys were nearly conjoined based on when the egg splits, that both of them had really significant anomalies, each one. Baby A had a severely underdeveloped heart. Baby B had something wrong with his tummy and his intestine. It's called duodenal atresia. Both of those anomalies are most often associated with Down syndrome. Since they were identical twins, if one had it, they both would. And the doctor said, we think you should consider selective reduction of baby A so that baby B has a better chance.
How hard was that to hear?
Well, I was at that appointment by myself. My husband didn't come to that appointment. He was a school teacher, and I thought I would be fine. And I just remember thinking, this is the worst April Fool's Day joke ever. And I was young. I was 29 at the time. It was all so new and foreign to begin with, just the idea of having a baby and then what we were going to be encountering. But when the doctor said that, it was clear as day to me that wasn't an option. I knew that if God gave us two babies, we needed to get two babies out. And from that moment on, we gave everything to God. We prayed relentlessly. We were very specific with what our prayers were. And today, almost 22 years later, I have twin boys who give us a run for our money and are doing very well.
They're both very smart and creative people. They both went through quite a few surgeries, though.
They did. Yeah. Our son, Owen, who was baby B, he had most of his surgeries taken care of by the time he was 5. You know, the duodenal atresia was an emergency surgery. He had a thumb that didn't work, so they removed a thumb and turned an index finger into a thumb. It's just amazing. He also was born where he had the plumbing, but he didn't have the outlet to be able to go to the bathroom. They got that fixed right away.
Isn't it amazing what medicine can do?
It's shocking to me. And you have to have faith in that. So you have faith that God has given these doctors to know what to do, and the science is incredible. Baby A, Logan, he's had a really rough course. He's had well over 50 surgeries. He's had 2 heart transplants. He's had so many just unexpected bumps in the road. And yet his resilience shines through every time. We can see God's hand at work. We can see the miracles that have happened and the way in which we've been surrounded. And he's here.
Wow. And through all of this, you never took a leave from work as you navigated Logan and Owen's journey, the journey, obviously, for all 4 of you, your family.
The one time that I did is I needed to be in the hospital for 7 weeks before the boys were born because I had to be constantly monitored. And my job actually said, be done. Don't work. We've got you covered. But I was still making some PR phone calls. I was working from Herschel Fields at the time. So I would still make some phone calls because that was how I think I stayed in control, at least of some part of my life.
A little bit of a good distraction.
And I think that is what set the stage for the rest of these unexpected adventures that we've had. Working gave me something to focus on. While I still was, of course, very focused on my kids, I didn't have to be consumed by that, which I think can spiral people in not great ways.
Exactly. Wow. Well, it is amazing. I am so happy for you and your husband, and you really teach all of us that faith matters, the power of love matters, the power of just dreaming the bigger life for these two little boys. that you knew you wanted in your lives, even though at that 19-week point, you had no idea what that would even look like one day?
No idea. No idea. I mean, when we found out we were having twin boys, I always thought I was supposed to have a little girl named Bianca, and instead I was going to have twin boys. But there again, God knows what we need in our lives, and it was better for me to have two than probably one girl named Bianca.
Wow. Well, you are definitely a force when it comes to just how you look at life, how you bring life to others, as well as your amplification and pride in where you work, Lifetime. And as you lead the PR and corporate communications functions and do so much, you've also really lived the brand in how you wake up every day and how you walk through the week. You do not leave workouts behind. You're a very busy working mom and wife, a very full social calendar, yet you are very committed to your physical well-being.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember I was a, quote, athlete in high school, right? Like I played basketball, I ran track, I was a cheerleader. I didn't get any college scholarships, but I would always
Well, that's pretty significant,
I always
though.
was active, right? I worked out in college. But then you have kids and life gets hard. But there was a moment in 2007, November of 2007, I was in Chicago working at Marshall Fields for the time, and I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize who I was. And in that moment, like I still remember, November 7th, 2007, I was like, fix it. And it had to be about me. Like I needed to do it for me. And I think for so many of us where we want wellness or fitness to be a part of our lives, if we're doing it for any other reason, if we're doing it to win a competition, if we're doing it because we're going on vacation, if it isn't truly about what you want to do for your own self, it won't last. So it's lasted for me. So for all of these years, I get up in the morning, I work out, I get ready, I go to work, and then the reason that Lifetime came into the picture is I've had really, really awesome jobs for really awesome companies and awesome leaders. But I met someone at a party once, and he had just started working for Lifetime, and I left that party that night, and I said, Ben, I need to work for Lifetime. I love Lifetime. I am Lifetime. To be able to combine my career and what I love to do, like how wonderful would that be? And that night, a Saturday night, I went home, have never done this, opened my computer, went online, and they had just posted for a director of media relations job. And I looked up and I smiled and I said, okay, God, I got this. And that was in September. It took until the day after Christmas for Bahram Akradi to offer me that job, but he offered me that job. I've been there ever since.
And that was one of the smartest decisions he ever made.
I mean, I'd like to think so.
Yes, we know so. And Bahram has been on this show a couple times during season 2. So really, really smart of him. And it just goes to prove there are really no coincidences and things happen when they're supposed to happen. So for people who haven't looked up Natalie Bushaw on Instagram, and I highly recommend that you do, she has some very fascinating as well as inspirational and very badass videos of working out. So walk us through some of these routines. What does your week look like when it comes to exercise? Because you're a quote-unquote normal person.
Yeah.
And I say normal, you're not a competitive athlete, you're not a bodybuilder, but you do have an amazing body. Like you are very fit. And what do you do? I mean, you're a real person. Tell us that real story.
Well, I mean, here's what it is. I have my alarm set for 5:50. I push snooze once. I'm ready to get up out of bed after that. I'm at Lifetime for about an hour in the morning. I get 20 minutes to 30 minutes of quick cardio in. And then I head over to the free weight area and I lift weights. And I don't lift light weights. 3, 5, 8, 10, 12 little weights. You got to work up above that. But I like to throw around heavy weights. So I usually do 1 or 2 different body parts a day, depending on how much time that I have. And that's what I do. And then I go home and I get ready for work. On the weekends, I like to take a couple of classes, which gives me some high intensity sprinting, which is really
those with
important.
Other people?
Yep. We have classes at Lifetime. GTX is the class that I primarily take on Saturdays and Sundays. But it gives your body that chance to go into some high intensity sprint interval training, which for those of us who are, have entered a new decade, which I turned 51 in January, and in my late 40s, mid to late 40s, like everything changes and it's cruddy. You're like, my body is changing,
you're
but
wondering whose
my
body
workouts
is
aren't
this?
changing, but something's changing. So I've tried to pay attention to what I need to be doing for that. And I like to be strong. I like to be strong spiritually, mentally, physically, because I think I can get through the days better that way.
Well, tell us about your pull-ups, because those are some of my favorite videos. I can hardly do one pull-up, and there you are, just pull-up after pull-up.
Yeah. Well, I would like to make one point of clarification. So there's different ways of doing pull-ups, right? Like there's where you have your hands over the bar pulling up, or you have your hands under the bar. So
like an overhand versus an underhand grip.
Exactly. Yes. So under bar, I got those nailed because it's a lot of bicep strength, but it's also back strength. Overhand.
Maybe that's my problem.
So try it that way.
All right, I'll
but
try the other bar.
The overhand, I'm not as good at, but I do have a strong back. But there is something about just being able to pull yourself up that is just pretty empowering. And it doesn't matter if you need it to be assisted. And it doesn't matter if you can do one or two of them. I just think there is something to be said about that.
Very symbolic.
But even that, there's a movement called the dead hang. And that is a test of longevity, proven scientific fact. As women, we want to be able to hang for at least 30 seconds. And if we can work up to 60 and then 90 seconds, that actually is demonstrative of how we will age.
Wow, that's a really great tip you've just given us.
Yes.
It's called the dead hang.
It's the dead hang.
You just need a bar that will hold you.
Yep.
And you hang there.
Yep.
And you recommend an overhand or an underhand grip?
Either way is helpful because either way we're holding our weight. And there's something called grip strength that is another test of longevity, and then being able to stand on one leg, your balance. These little things as we're getting older that seem silly, like if you can stand on one leg and close your eyes, that's an important thing.
And these
for
are
us
things
for
we can do at home
Totally.
or at our own fitness.
Absolutely.
They're not super complicated.
Yeah. So that's my pull-up thing. I like to do pull-ups.
So someone told you once that you are your own house. What does that mean to you?
I equate it a bit to a laundry basket, right? Like I can leave clothes in a laundry basket for quite some time. They can be dirty clothes, they could be clean clothes. But at some point, you're going to have to clean out your laundry basket. You're either going to need to wash all of them or you're going to need to take some clothes out. And I just think like for us in our house, how we take care of it is really, really important. The funny thing is it once had to do with whether or not I was going to get Botox. And the woman, a legend in the Twin Cities market, she said, you know what, if the shutters on your house start chipping, do you just leave them to chip or do you paint them? Or do you get new shutters? And that for me was a really interesting moment too, because we don't have to just accept what happens when we get older. We need to eat well, get the right amount of sleep, exercise. If we need a little bump of Botox every now and again, or we need to make sure we're getting collagen and the right supplements to help our bodies, we are taking care of our body, which is our house.
All right. Well, that is a good way that you explain that, because I think there are people who get a little freaked out, or they think it's such a big burden to start down this road, to go on this journey. But it can be a day-by-day, step-by-step thing. You're also a leader, and you have been your entire career. When you're leading in the current workforce, you're leading 4 or 5 different generations. How is that playing out for you and your colleagues?
Those of us who all we've ever known to do is work. Work, 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 work. Work defines us, and there's value in that. Maybe sometimes it's a little bit too much, but I think that this next generation, they've either figured out how to balance it better than we have, or we just need to guide them a little bit more. But I think what's important for this younger generation to know is that they can do hard things. I remember meeting some younger girls who worked with a friend of mine, Allison Kaplan, and we were just talking about Allison and just all of the things that she does and how she manages
She's
with her family.
She's currently the editor-in-chief of Twin Cities Business Magazine.
How does she do all of that? And these younger girls who worked for Allison were like, we can't do it. And I looked at them straight in the eye and I was like, you can. I know it seems overwhelming right now, but you just have to remember that you can do hard things. You can have a relationship. You can have kids. You can work. Like, they're not probably all going to get the same attention at the same time. But I think if we don't start reminding this younger generation that they're capable of more than the world around them is telling them there are, that we're in trouble.
Yeah, and that goes for young men, young women,
Yes.
anybody out there, regardless of gender. I hear today in our conversation, and I know this about you, very faith-driven. Has that been difficult in a modern workplace or a modern world for you?
Never. And I think it's because it is such a part of my life that I've never been in a meeting where I've hesitated to say something about my faith or to say, you know what, I'm going to pray about that, or I'm going to pray for you about that. It has never, ever been something that I have been afraid to say something about. In fact, it just gives me all the more confidence to be who I am. It's just an innate part of me. And I know that that's not something that everybody has. I can find the bright side literally of anything. And I know that that's not what everybody has. But if I can just through living my daily life have someone feel that and make a decision to do, like, you know what, I can find the bright side of this, or I can make it through this, I feel like I've accomplished a mission that I'm not trying to accomplish, but it's just what is here in me.
Which is so great. Well, that's so admirable. So I did a little intel, which you don't know about, which we did not discuss in our preparation for this conversation. Natalie also has an alter ego Instagram handle called Fridgetime Fashion. Yes, you heard it like the refrigerator. Fridgetime Fashion. There are videos, there are images on there. And I wanted you to tell us what Fridgetime Fashion is actually about.
Well, I think what I've determined about Fridgetime Fashion is it's the one creative outlet that I have. And one day I put the phone in my refrigerator to unwrap a package. I was like, well, the lighting in here is pretty good. And from that moment, I just was like, I'm just going to open things on the refrigerator. The phone is like on the second shelf. And then I'm just videoing one day and I was like, we should come up with a name for this. It's like, let's just call it Fridgetime Fashion. And I'm not trying to like build an audience for it. I really think it is the escape that I need, the creativity that I need. But then also like, I kind of feel like I know how to put an outfit together. I know how to get good deals. That's the big thing.
So recently I saw something, you were able to find a bunch of things in blue.
Yeah.
So you did some Fridgetime Fashion in blue. But then you're also sometimes pulling things out of the fridge and showing us, aren't you? Or am I missing that?
Yeah, no.
I felt like at one time you pulled a box out of the fridge.
Well, I mean, it might be sitting on a shelf if I need to grab it. But usually I'm grabbing things from the counter or on the floor from a bag.
But it's mostly always fashion, not food.
Yeah, no.
You're not styling food yet.
Oh, gosh. This has nothing to do with food at all, really. It literally just has to do with the lighting in the refrigerator and the fact that I can just unwrap things.
So I won't reveal my source. One of Natalie's colleagues who I bumped into at my workout at Lifetime St. Louis Park in Minnesota recently. And I told her I was going to be chatting with you. And she asked if I had checked out Fridgetime Fashion. I said, no, but I'm going to follow it right away. And we made a pact that I would just bring it up today as a big reveal. It's
fun.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. We have to have things that delight us.
It's a distraction for me from the day to day. And like, who doesn't like to see fun things that you open up? I mean, I do.
I do too. And she is very stylish, as the pictures for this case file will show. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for your candor and your insights today. You can connect directly with Natalie on Instagram and LinkedIn at Natalie Bushaw, and of course, at Fridgetime Fashion. Today's case file is powered by Goff Public. Reputation issues can arise quickly and unexpectedly. Prepare and plan before a crisis strikes with Goff Public, an award-winning public relations and public affairs agency. Your best defense is a crisis-ready culture that helps you spot potential issues, act swiftly, and reflects your brand's values while building trust with your audiences. Learn more at goffpublic.com. Rate, review, and subscribe to The Crisis Files on your platform of choice. Follow us on YouTube and Instagram at The Crisis Files. Go to thecrisisfiles.com to check out all 3 seasons of our library of case files. I'm Roshini Rajkumar. Join me next time on The Crisis Files.